last Sunday, I began our time together by sharing a number of beautiful and moving quotes from some pretty powerful individuals, including Ralph Waldo Emerson, Jesus, religious science founder Ernest Holmes, Joseph Campbell, and even Walt Disney. All of those statements were about the truth of who we are and the inherent power in choosing to be who we came here to be, in choosing to live our dreams. Two of those quotes will be the foundation for our time this morning as we explore who would you be if you knew you could not fail? Part 2. I know, real creative titles. I've only got so much in me, kids. Now, before we delve into that, I want to share some insight I gained this week. I wanted to re-engage our gratitude this week, since this is the month earmarked for giving thanks, or Thanksgiving. Speaking of which, you've all been doing your daily journal entries, your gratitude journal entries. If you guys didn't get one last week, see me after the service and I'll make sure you get one. Now, if you recall, the focus of my gratitude last week, and really the focus of my gratitude this entire Thanksgiving month, although it's on the list always, my special focus is given to this place, this sacred, kind of magical place that we're in right now, and the way that it shaped my life. I touched upon what we believe as a New Thought church, as well as my personal beliefs. Well, I was thinking about what I'd said when something occurred to me. In all of the many years I spent here as a child and teen, and I mean child. Was I in diapers the first time you brought me here? I was little. I was very wee, because I remember coming here before starting kindergarten, and I remember starting kindergarten. So my entire life, so this is a real big statement here. It wasn't until I took the first religious science foundations class my dad offered in 1999 that I learned that the Science of Mind religious science logo symbol has a really significant and powerful meaning. I'd never even thought to question it before, but imagine me, after spending more years than I'm going to admit to, here, not knowing. So I decided I was going to make sure nobody else had to remain in the dark about it. I've got some bookmarks up there. Can you guys hand those out and make sure everyone gets one? While those are being disseminated, okay, I got to tell you, I have a really vivid imagination. I've been taught that if you visualize things, they will happen all my life, as we've mentioned. So my imagination is extremely vivid, extremely detailed. And as I go about my week and preparing to write these sermons, humming along in the background of my mind is this current of ideas and thoughts about the sermon I'm working on. The thing that I keep seeing in my head is happening quite spontaneously, because although I know I have to envision it so it can happen, I'm not painting the picture. Because in my head, I see myself up here, and I'm freely walking and talking to you guys, and there's a clicker in my hand. And I'm walking around, and I'm doing this at key moments. And there are two big screens right there. And I'm changing slides so you guys can see it. We don't have monitors. So this in your hand, that's my monitor. That is my reasonable facsimile for the moment. It was kind of an afterthought because I'd already decided I was going to talk about this. Now, look at those bookmarks in your hand. And if you look closely at that peace symbol at the top of the bookmark, you'll see it's made with symbols from every imaginable faith. And above that is our motto, one spirit, many paths. You may have heard one river, many wells, one tree, many branches. Same concept. Goes back to the song, one God. On page 67 of The Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes tells us, if we were to examine the basic principles of the religions of the world, we would find a great similarity. Each points to one central life, from whose self-existence all draw their livingness, and without which nothing could exist. The Christian religion gives more value to the individual life than do most of the others. That's why it has made such an appeal to the more vital races of the world. In many respects, the Christian Bible is the greatest book ever written and does truly point a way to eternal values, but it is only one explanation and cannot be considered the only light on religion, for there are many others whose combined teachings weave the story of truth into a complete and unified pattern. The peace symbol on your bookmark is a visual representation of that thought. It speaks to the concept that truth and love are universal law, regardless of the belief system one subscribes to in order to understand that truth, to understand source, to understand God. The second symbol on your bookmark is kind of a fancy version of the religious science of mind logo. Now, the way I see it, religious science is a sort of Rosetta Stone. It's the how-to manual to maximize the potentiality in all beliefs. Right in the very beginning of the science of mind, in the 8th paragraph of the book, in fact, it says, we are so used to the thought that if we mix certain colors, we get certain other colors, that we do not realize we're dealing with a principle. We know that whoever blends these particular colors will get the same result, but we do not know why. Think about that. Religious science and our new thought beliefs are the why, as far as I can see. Now look at the logo again. Here's what it means. First, God is all there is. World religions have many names for God, but we're all talking about the same thing. One presence, one power, one source, only one, only God. This is represented by the circle. Second, God has 3 aspects or modes of being. The first is spirit, the divine intelligence and love that is the creator of all. This is what we acknowledge with our conscious mind. This is where we form the initial thought from which actualization begins. And it's represented in the top third of that circle. The second is what we call law. It's an automatic responder to the spirit. It only says yes to whatever the spirit plants in it. This is our subjective mind. This is the stuff that goes on in the background while we're thinking our thoughts. So whatever you think is going to happen automatically, because your second level is going to say, yep, okay, if that's what you want, that's what we'll do. So if you picture that top level, that initial thought is a seed. This second level in the circle, that's your soil. That's where you plant that seed so it can grow. And finally, the bottom third section of the circle is manifestation. That is the result of spirit planting a divine idea in the law. And this is where the thought becomes the thing. The V that runs through all 3 levels represents that ongoing process of creation, the passage of spirit into form. Thought going into that soil, becoming manifest and coming out. And we've constantly got that running through those layers. That is what we call the divine creative process. That's how God creates in the macrocosm, and that's how we create in the microcosm of our world. So now you know what that means. And I'm probably putting the cart before the horse here and maybe preempting a bit. But my dad hinted that he may be planning to teach some more comprehensive classes along those lines, and I'm really looking forward to them. So that's 1 guaranteed student. That's not bad considering you haven't officially announced it. Okay, so picking up where we concluded last week, Today, we continue exploring who we are in God and who we might be in this world if we knew we could not fail. And we return to my two favorite quotes from last week that'll serve as our foundation for this morning. The first is from Ralph Waldo Emerson. What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. The second is from It's Up to You by Ernest Holmes on page 17. And you've heard this. I've been saying this is my second month. No one has ever tried and failed in a conscious cooperation with the universe itself. Now let's make that more personal. What lies behind you and what lies before you are tiny matters compared to what lies within you. You cannot try and fail when you are in a conscious cooperation with the universe itself. Those are some pretty powerful statements, aren't they? Let's dig into them a little. What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. Something happens to us, to the way we begin to think, to the way we view the world, to the way we respond, to the way we speak, to the way we act when we've lived with this idea for a while. When we begin to live from the idea that what lies behind us, our history, our past, those things that have happened in our lives, and what lies before us, our future thrills of victory or agonies of defeat, they're tiny matters compared to what lies within us in this very moment, in every moment. The power of life itself. When we really begin to live from that place, we show up differently. Put your thoughts right now on the power of the one who gives you life. We don't have enough power to give ourselves one breath, but there's a power within us that does, that power of life. The power of life itself, this power is God. And there's nothing we can do to diminish or destroy it. I love these words from Ernest Holmes in Living the Science of Mind on page 166. Therefore we say that the river of life is forever flowing through us. It appears that we have the ability, at least temporarily, to pollute the stream of life with the consciousness of hate, despair, or any negative thought which denies its purity. But of course, we do not really have the power to destroy, only to mold and remold. It is fortunate indeed that this is true, for in spite of all our misdirection, we are still being carried forward on the bosom of this infinite stream to a harbor of perfect safety. We may rest in absolute assurance that good will be the final goal of all things. We can hasten the advent of this good by definitely clarifying our thought and by daily meditating upon the invisible source, the wellspring of life that is within us. And so again, I'm going to ask that question of the morning. Who would you be if you knew you couldn't fail? And if you knew that good will be the final goal of all things? Would you be one who embraces life, celebrates it, and absolutely lives fully in this very day? Would you begin to feel on a cellular level that things are unfolding exactly the way they should at the rate and timing they need to? Would you start to trust the process and stop trying to push the river? Would you, on a deep and fundamental level, just let go and relax? Not from a defeated perspective, but from a place of complete and total assurance that all is well. You would, wouldn't you? And then you would sit in bemused curiosity, eager to witness the next miracle in your life, detached from what it is or when it comes, yet knowing it is bound to happen because it always does. They always do. You would feel spacious, receptive, and open to what is waiting to birth forth from you next, resting in the knowing that God is your source. You wouldn't cling to any one plan or perceived outcome. Rather, you would realize that all is working toward your highest good. And so you patiently wait for the indicators and the right timing rather than ripping open the cocoon prematurely. And more on that in a minute. You trust that any delay is absolutely perfect. So, this is who you would be if you knew you couldn't fail. You would accept all of these things and know that they are all your journey, and that your good is always the final destination. Pretty amazing when you see it clearly, right? I got a message earlier this week, and the subject line said, "A note from the universe." And it really fit beautifully here. Now remember, this is the universe speaking. To be all I could be, I had to be you. And you had to be amazing. And amazing had to be redefined. Happily, it's all working out perfectly, the universe. Isn't that great? But it fits so well, doesn't it? And that, I'm going to take a tangent because that reminds me of another thing I got last week. What did the guru say to the hot dog vendor? Make me one with everything. Ha. Isn't that great? I love it. So yes, you give me a funny an email and the joke follows. What can I do? Okay, well, back on course. We're going to say this again. What lies behind me and what lies before me are tiny matters compared to what lies within me. And what lies within me is amazing. I cannot try and fail when I am in conscious cooperation with the universe itself. Conscious cooperation with the universe itself means realizing all of those things I just said. Conscious cooperation with the universe itself means that we realize that what we might perceive as failure is really just a necessary step in the process of being what we came here to be, who we came here to be. In fact, the perceived failure, the perceived struggle may be exactly what is required for us to become who we came here to be. Who would you be if you knew this? Nikos Kazantzakis, author of Zorba the Greek, told a touching story in his autobiography, Report to Greco. This story is often seen in various forms, and it's also frequently unattributed and paraphrased. But here's what the masterful writer really wrote, translated from Greek. I remembered one morning when I discovered a cocoon in the bark of a tree, just as a butterfly was making a hole in its case and preparing to come out. I waited a while, but it was too long appearing, and I was impatient. I bent over it and breathed on it to warm it. I warmed it as quickly as I could, and the miracle began to happen before my eyes, faster than life. The case opened, the butterfly slowly started crawling out, and I shall never forget my horror when I saw how its wings were folded back and crumpled. The wretched butterfly tried with its whole trembling body to unfold them. Bending over it, I tried to help it with my breath. In vain. It needed to be hatched out patiently and the unfolding of its wings should be a gradual process in the sun. Now it was too late. My breath had forced the butterfly to appear. All crumpled. Before its time, it struggled desperately, and a few seconds later died in the palm of my hand. That little body is, I do believe, the greatest weight I have on my conscience. For I realize today that it is a mortal sin to violate the great laws of nature. We should not hurry. We should not be impatient, but we should confidently obey the eternal rhythm. Wow. As a butterfly emerges from its cocoon, it presses and strains, and that pumps fluid from its large body into the wings. And that process strengthens the wings and shrinks the body. Without that struggle, the butterfly emerges with weak wings and an unwieldy body, and it cannot survive. This is our life process as well. We emerge from a chrysalis state to become our real divine selves. There may be what appears to be a struggle. There may appear to be failures, yet the more we continue through with them, with the realization that we cannot try and fail when we are in conscious cooperation with the universe itself, the greater the reward. For us, it's not a single experience. We emerge over and over and over again, growing into new ways of being, exploring one way and then trying another until we find the right fit. No one can open our cocoon for us because it's through the effort, through the struggle, that we develop the strength to fly free. You may head so far in one direction that you feel there's no way back, but there's always a way. Because when your internal compass is set on your dream, God always makes a way where there appears to be no way. I want to bring our time to a close with a series of beautiful statements from Diane Harmony's book, 5 Gifts for an Abundant Life. On page 39, she asks and answers the question, what does it mean to dream? To dream is to open yourself to the thoughts of God. To dream is to become consciously aware of the desires of God that want to come through you. To dream is to choose one thought and say yes to it. To dream is to surrender into the mind of your heart, where the invisible divine idea can find fertile soil to grow and become, no matter what the external circumstances. To dream is to step beyond what is to what can be. To dream is to dance in the realm of all possibilities, to step outside the box, to try on, to stretch and grow, to choose to be a vehicle of holy manifestation. My friends, let us choose to become vehicles of holy manifestation by realizing the truth. And the truth is that we really, honestly, cannot fail because we have the power of the universe behind us, before us, and within us always. Thank you.